So welcome everybody. My name is Dave Finale, and this is Real Estate Talk TGIF. That's thank God it's finale. Yes, it's Friday, so the F's work for both. I am so honored today to have, you heard Chris Smith and Jimmy Mackin say it the other day, the queen of social media, Katie Land. She's an author of this great book, which you've seen me put up the past couple of days. Chief strategist for Inman News, keynote speaker, trainer, coach. Katie, welcome, and thank you so much for being on Real Estate Talk today.
Thank you, Dave. It's really a pleasure to be here today. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, I am too. So let's get right to it, because I mean, the whole idea behind these broadcasts I do is to help real estate agents. It's not about being public. It's about helping the agents. Mackin on, we've had Chris Smith on, we've had other people on. We've had a 22-year-old agent who did $7 million part-time while finishing his senior year in college. You know, we've had great people like that on. So in here, we're just getting better and better. I'm so thankful for you to be on. So let's get right to it. One of the things that I think a lot of people miss in their businesses is they try to do what they think is good, and they forget about themselves and what they're really passionate about. So you just mentioned that word in our conversation before about, do what you're passionate about, what you're passionate about. So as far as being different and getting out there through social media, what do you feel is being missed by a lot of real estate agents?
Well, I think there's really, I would say, two big things. Social media has changed a lot. What's true today is not necessarily true, was not necessarily true 5 years ago. So I think the two big things that are really important is, number one, engagement and that personal connection. It's really important on a personal level for agents and brokers to spend time on Facebook or Instagram or both, engaging, taking time, connecting with people. I always recommend something called Focus 5, where just every day you connect with at least 5 people on social media. That'll help build relationships, and that's what real estate's all about. It's a relationship business. And the second piece of that is that the agents and brokers we see that are getting a lot of business from social media, they're attracting the people they want to work with by putting out really valuable content. So they're creating video content or Facebook Live content like we're doing here, or podcast content. That idea of original content is so valuable because, let's face it, anybody could go to Google and Google how to get your home ready for the market. That makes a really big difference.
So when you talk about content, about the way someone's going to say it, I always talk to people and say, like, what's the story of what you're trying to get out there? What's the story of this and that and the other thing? Expand on that a little bit about, I hear so many times, I'm sure you hear it too, every time you speak, well, what should I post about? What should I write about? What should it be about? And I heard Mark Schaefer say, who's the author of Known, he said, it is a great book. I'm actually doing it the second time. If you can't think of 50 topics of something to talk about, get into another career. So what do you think about content and how unique it can be to that individual person?
Yeah, I hear this all the time also, that people get a little stuck with what to write about. And one of the biggest tips I can say is look at your life as content. Look at your life as content. And what I'd recommend for any agent is, imagine in a 24-hour day or 48-hour day, every time you have a conversation with somebody, I'm going to take out my little notebook, just write it down. You don't have to write down the whole conversation, but just write down, what was that conversation about, right? Maybe it was about getting someone's home ready for the market, or a home inspection, or meeting a stager. Like, throughout the day, agents and brokers have all these conversations, right? And they go on, broker's tour, conversations with their broker, with people on their staff, other agents. And as you start to have those conversations, those can all be pieces of content. And I'd also encourage agents and brokers just to think about, what are the questions they get asked all the time? Those questions where they think, oh my gosh, if I get asked that one more time, like, that's a great piece of content, right? So starting by just brainstorming, and I would challenge any agent, set your timer for 10 or 15 minutes, close your computer, put your phone down, and give yourself 10 or 15 minutes and just brainstorm. And I would imagine, like you said, you could probably easily come up with 10, 15, 20, maybe 50 topics, but at least a couple dozen. And that's a great place to start right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. I mean, you've said so many great nuggets there. One was schedule and put time aside to do it. The other is, what's your life about, and set a timer. I mean, so often we look at things and people say, well, I don't have the time, or how much time should I spend? When they say they don't have the time, they really don't want to do it, or they're afraid,
Right.
Fear should
Or
be,
they haven't created a system for it either.
right. Which leads me into one of the things that I keep on my desk. There's always Katie Lance content on my desk, and it's the content calendar, whether it's Instagram or whatever it is. Talk about the scheduling of it, which you just helped me segue into.
Yes. I am such a big believer in time blocking and scheduling. Like I just said, if someone comes back and says, I don't have the time, I would question, it's probably not the time. It's that you just don't have a system for it. And that goes to any area of your life, right? We can always say, oh, I don't have time for this or that or whatever, but it's just, you haven't made the time and you haven't made it part of your habit. And when you can make something a habit, then it's just part of your day. It's not like, oh my gosh, I gotta do this Facebook thing. It's just part of your day. So at a minimum, what I'd recommend is an agent or broker set aside time on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So on a daily basis, it could be 10 or 15 minutes a day. I do this every morning as I'm drinking my cup of coffee. I'll open up my Facebook feed or Instagram and I check my notifications. I respond to people. I do my Focus 5 where I'm connecting with at least 5 people. And you do that on a daily basis. Then on a weekly basis, I like to set aside around 30 minutes or so. And that's time to, look ahead, to schedule a little bit of content, not necessarily months in advance, but, look ahead a little bit. Maybe you're scheduling a Monday market update or a tip Tuesday or a throwback Thursday, and you're kind of looking ahead. Maybe you're creating a little bit of content. And then on a monthly basis, I use my monthly time. I usually set aside an hour or two once a month to batch create my content.
Yes.
And when I mean batch create, it's like, if I'm going to sit down, do my hair and makeup and do one video, I might as well sit down and record 4 or 5. And that's really where it can make a huge difference, where you sit down, you're either doing, maybe you're recording video, maybe you're doing, creating graphics. I do the same thing. If I'm going to create one graphic, I might as well create like 5 or 6, So this idea of kind of batch creating, getting smarter with your time, and then it becomes more of a habit, more of a system, and it just becomes integrated into everything else that you're doing.
Right, exactly. I mean, batch create was something I was going to ask you about because I've seen you talk about that so many times, and it's something that I do on a regular basis. And just to give somebody an idea, just to explain that a little bit more, is look, you're going to get ready to do a video. You know what? And you're going to go through all the things you got to do. One is making sure you look at. You said makeup. Fortunately, I don't wear makeup. I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Look at me. Anyway, but the thing is that what I've done, because of what you said there with batch content, what you've said forever, is I get set up and I get ready, right? So what I did over the past few months is I redid my office so it's more of a studio and easier to set up. So what I do is I'll set something up and I'll bring clothes into my office, 3 shirts, 2 suit sport coats, so I can do one without a jacket, one with a jacket, one with a new shirt, one with a new coat, one with the same jacket. So I can do a whole batch of videos at one shot, and it looks like I'm doing it in a different time. Also, you see, I got a blue screen behind me. I like blue instead of green, but I'll go out and I'll get some live video of where I'm going to be, and I'll take that and I'll put that behind. So. But weather is important and all that other stuff. So batching is so important, and it makes things a lot easier. And it's like you got all these ideas. Don't lose them. Don't get them out of your head. You agree with all that?
Yeah, absolutely. When you get into the zone, you can create a lot more. And it's sometimes harder to kind of switch hats, right? Between, okay, I'm a salesperson and then I'm a mom and now I'm doing videos. Like if you're in that groove, and you have to really set aside some uninterrupted time, to do that. Whether it's, I like to set aside about 2 hours, and it's long enough where I know I can get it done, but it's also short enough where if I don't get it done in those 2 hours, it's not going to happen. So, setting aside that time, I agree with you as far as sort of getting a comfortable setup. I typically will shoot all my videos kind of in this area, which, probably isn't ideal, but it is what it is. We have a, small home office. Like it done is better than perfect.
Right, exactly. I mean, look, I've seen so much of your stuff, and that's one of the things you say, batch it and be comfortable where you're at, and what you've got is fine. For me, honestly, truth be told, my office is the back part of my garage, which I cut off and made it a room.
Yep.
And it's perfect for me. And when people, I mean, this is where I work. People come to see me, I say, tell me you're here. I open the garage door and they walk in. So it doesn't matter where you're going to do it. I mean, it looks pretty cool in here if you ask me, but that's beside the point. So even being comfortable with what you're doing is so important. So as we move along, you can batch create one, time aside. And as you said, if it's not there, it's not gonna be there. So make that decision. And I say also be prepared with with water and food or whatever you want to have to snack along. So I want to change subjects a little bit. Having read your book and gone through stuff, one of the things that I believe is really important, and we just talked about this, was getting help promoting yourself by promoting. A book has a section on cross promotion. Talk a little bit about that and how different that can be used to help agents get known. Did you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, you just cut out at the end, but yes, you're talking about cross promotion, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So how agents can use that?
Yes, it's a really powerful tool. When an agent or broker first starts kind of creating content, a lot of times what will happen is they might get a kind of a burst of engagement right out of the gate, like a lot of likes and comments, like, oh, this is really great, you're doing this. And then it kind of falls off a little bit until they really get into a routine. And so one of the ways to kind of boost their engagement, because that's the name of the game, is engagement. It's not, it's not just reach, but engagement, is to highlight other people, other businesses. So, especially small businesses. And one of the things I love about agents and brokers is they know their community inside and out. They know the best place to get a cup of coffee or the best place to get a slice of pizza. They know just all the ins and outs. And so I always tell an agent or broker, imagine reaching out to some of those local people and saying, hey, we're doing a video once a month, or I'm doing a Facebook Live once a month or once a week where I'm highlighting local business owners, and I'd love to highlight you. Are you okay with that? And 9 times out of 10, of course, they're going to say yes, especially as a small business owner. They might be a little nervous about getting on camera, but what a great opportunity for them and for you to highlight that business or company. You ask them a few simple questions. Maybe it's a 5-minute video, whatever it might be. And then when you're sharing that to Facebook or Instagram, when you tag that business, they're getting a notification they've been tagged. You're going to send that video to them. They're probably going to share it, hopefully also. And you get this beautiful kind of cross promotion that happens in a really natural way, because you're bringing someone else's audience in. And so that, I think, can be really powerful. I think it can be powerful on the agent level, but also the broker level. We're seeing brokers who are doing this really well, who are highlighting their agents. And they're doing a feature Friday. Every Friday they're highlighting an agent who's doing something amazing in their community. So it can happen on the broker level, but also the agent level. And again, whether or not you do video or not, maybe it's just you're putting a picture up of the business. I did this a couple years ago. I drove around my local city where I live, and I took 30 pictures of 30 different businesses and organizations that I was really passionate about. And then I had 30 different posts. Right? 30 different posts for those different companies. So, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but there's a lot of power in sharing and highlighting other people.
What's really interesting is that the way you would explain it to that business owner, like, I'd like to do an interview of you. And, sometimes, I mean, like on the East Coast, everybody's skeptical and cynical. And, I remember someone asking me, what are you selling? I said, I'm not selling anything. What I'd like to do is promote your business. And in turn, it's going to promote me. So it's free for both of us. It's just taking my time and a few minutes of your time, So it's the concept is really simple. And yes, okay, if any agent has a question about how to do it and what to do it, I mean, think of door knocking. I mean, you hate door knocking, but sometimes you did it, or cold calling. Some way, somehow, you've called somebody you didn't know. It's the same thing. But it's someone in your community that's doing well, right?
Absolutely. And, if maybe you're uncomfortable making that call, I mean, there's lots of different ways to do it. Like I said, you could go around, you could take pictures. we have an agent that's worked with us. She does a lot of video where she'll, say something like, hey, here's my top 3 places for lunch, right? And she'll do a video where she's on the video and she's talking about her top 3 places. And then, in her caption, she's tagging each one of those businesses. And then afterwards, she'll share that video out and say, hey, just a heads up, she's tagging them on Instagram. And so for her, it's kind of a great way to highlight other businesses. She has the control of being able to kind of do the video herself, or maybe she doesn't, not quite right to get, not quite comfortable to get someone else on camera just quite yet. But, there's lots of different ways to do it for sure.
So that's one way for an agent to promote themselves. And then when we talk about promotion, we talk about getting out there and getting known. A lot of agents and a lot of people think about likes, they think about shares, they think about commenting. And then there's Facebook will allow you to do a like campaign. Mm-hmm. What are your opinions on likes, comments, and shares and that like campaign?
Well, again, I think social media has changed a whole lot, and it's gotten, more noisier than ever before. I don't think likes are necessarily the end all and be all. I think 5 years ago, we all were trying to get more likes and more followers, and it's just not. I think for a lot of people, it's a real vanity metric. Like, it might look, oh wow, he's got 5,000 followers. Well, who are those 5,000? Right? Are they real people? Are they not real people? And last year, Mark Zuckerberg came out and talked about sort of all these changes to the news feed, and there's a lot of rumors about what's happening to the news feed right now. And to be honest with you, the posts that tend to get the most traction on Facebook are posts that spark a conversation. So posts that spark a conversation. That's why video content tends to get a lot of views and engagement and shares. That's why Facebook Live, same thing, because people tend to engage and comment and like. So, when you're thinking about your content, it can't be the same as it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you could do a like campaign, or you could, throw out a link to an article and get a lot of traction. And that just isn't the case now. That the ultimate currency on social media is the share, right? How do you get someone to share something? And if you think about your own psychology, it's one thing for you to like something. It's another for you to take the time to comment. But holy moly, if you share something, that's a big deal. And so how do you get people to share your content? And that goes back to what we talked about a second ago. One of the easiest ways is to highlight somebody else, right? When you highlight someone else, at a minimum, they're going to share it, right? So exactly. I think that's really valuable. And it also goes to your point of storytelling. And I've been talking a lot about this year, is not just the facts, but if you can start to become a little bit more of a storyteller with the experiences and the content you're creating, that's what draws people in. That's what gets people to watch the full 2 minutes of a video and not just click out after 10 seconds, right? Because they engage in the story.
I think the story part, which to me is so very important, but it has to have a point. For instance, if you watch, I don't know who watches TV, regular TV anymore, but if you watch it and you watch the commercials, it could be a really, really great commercial and catch your attention.
Yeah.
If you don't know what the heck the product is,
right?
What was it? I mean, I've seen a lot of crap, and I've seen a lot of great stuff. So I think it's important to say that you need to understand what your story is and how it relates to who your audience is as well. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things I often say is really think about who your audience is and lean into who you are and who you're not. I think a lot of times agents and brokers, they want to capture like everybody. It's like this giant fishing net, and because they're afraid of pigeonholing themselves.
Right.
But I always recommend for agents, just really think about, who do you love to work with? Like, who do you really love to work with? Where they call you and you can't wait to talk to them, and what is it about them? Are they of a certain demographic? Are they from a certain area? Like, what is it about that type of person that you really love to work with? On the flip side, who do you not like to work with? And when you think about who you really love to work with, that will help when you get on video, right? When I'm doing video, I'm not just like talking to a camera. I'm thinking, who are my people, right? Who am I talking to? As if I was sitting across, having a cup of coffee. And when you can get to that level, which takes practice. My first video was terrible. Like my first 50 videos are probably not that great, but it takes practice and really kind of knowing who you want to work with. And what'll happen, David, you probably experienced this, when you put out content over the course of time that has your opinion, that has your voice, people are attracted to that. And some people aren't, and that's fine. Those aren't your people, right? You want to work with your people. So
exactly. You know, it's like first of all, I want to thank Matt DeFady is on, and my good friend, mentor, coach Grant Wise is on. He says he hopes to run into you next week. Grant's
awesome. Hi, Grant. Good to see you
and
guys.
so it's like, and Grant taught me this about, the people you're going to talk to. And that's the other thing about video is talk to the person you're talking to and know who your client is. Who's that client avatar, right? Who are you talking to, which is so important.
Yeah.
So we've talked about who your client is. We've talked about story, and we use the phrase cross promotion. What about cross promotion? Facebook, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. Yes, I think it can be done. I think Instagram is growing by leaps and bounds. It's, if I don't have a crystal ball, but it's definitely the one to watch in 2019, especially Instagram stories. I mean, I can't tell you how much engagement I personally get over Instagram. I know you and I have connected through Instagram. And I think cross promotion on any, social media platform is fine. You just want to be careful because Facebook is Facebook and Instagram is Instagram, and they're similar but different, right? It's like apples and oranges. So I'll give a quick example. Let's say you post something to Instagram and you get a lot of traction on Instagram. Hashtags make a big difference, right? You can post up to 30 hashtags, and that's one of the best ways to grow your following on Instagram.
Right.
So if you post something on Instagram with 30 hashtags and then you just share that to Facebook, well, now I see your post with like 30 hashtags and it looks ridiculous, right? Because hashtags on Facebook, it looks spammy, right? It's not the same ecosystem as Instagram. So there's nothing wrong with kind of cross promoting, but you want to think about that, right? So if I were to do that again, I would post it on Instagram. I post all my hashtags, but then when I share it to Facebook, just delete the hashtag part of it, right?
Right. Yes.
So it's just about just taking that extra little step, and that's why, a lot of agents will say, "Gosh, isn't there a platform I can just like post something and then like hit a button and it goes everywhere?" And I always tell people, yeah, but I'm not going to tell you about that. That's like the worst strategy, right? It's like the spray and pray strategy. So you can cross promote. I will also give one other tip. I will do Instagram stories where I'm promoting something over on Facebook. If I do a Facebook Live on a Monday, an hour before over on Instagram stories, I might do an Instagram story saying, "Hey guys, I'm doing a Facebook Live over on my Facebook page. We're going to talk about X, Y, and Z. Here's the link to the page. Go check it out." So I use both as a way to kind of cross promote and also repurpose some of our content too. So yeah, there's so much that you can do between both platforms. There's a lot of power in that.
I think it all goes back to, I feel when we talk about Instagram, when we talk about Facebook, and you talk about, again, then there's YouTube and other things you want to use, you want to do all these. And I heard, people talk about, as far as Instagram, make sure you go in and actually reply to comments and reply to comments on Facebook and stuff. And I remember I was at Agent 2021 this year, and someone asked Gary Vee, he talked about what his strategy was, that he spent like days on Twitter just answering everything and talking with people. And someone said to him, he says, "Did you do that all yourself? I mean, with your thumbs?" I can't repeat what he said. He says, "I do it with my nose," but I think the important thing is to realize that you really do need to respond to everything. And you keep nuggets that have been around for a long time, but people seem to forget you can use both.
And getting back in the comments, like that's where the magic happens. If you get one comment, don't just click like on that comment, respond. "Hey, thanks for chiming in." Every time you comment on a comment, they get a notification and it brings them back to the conversation. And then, through the algorithm of Facebook and Instagram, more people start to see your content. Right. That's why if you start to get a few comments on something, you comment back, all of a sudden your post starts to get more traction. Like you can see it happening. And so don't just post and run, right? Exactly. You got to go back in the comments. Like that's the secret sauce. And I mean, that's one of the small ways that we've built our business. I mean, when you see me doing that, that's me. That's not like anybody on our team. Like that's me, right? And that's a small thing that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned the thing about hashtags on Instagram and hashtags on Facebook.
Yes.
Because I see people sharing back and forth those hashtags on Facebook, and I just say, why? I mean, it's prevalent and prominent on Instagram, but not on Facebook.
Yeah. It does you no benefit.
Day, no one's going to search that, right? So
no.
I do it. So just one other thing I want to add, a couple of things I want to hit real quick, and I messaged it to you, and as I said to you earlier in our conversation before going live, I said something about ego posting and that kind of thing. And as I said, I've gotten got some people annoyed with me because I'd say that it's too much and stuff. What's your thought on putting things on, saying I just closed this and it's all about them rather than about the customer? What do you think about that?
Well, I get it. Agents they're fired up. They got a closing. They're excited. And, over the years, they've been sort of taught to celebrate those moments. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I do think that there's a lot of power in, like you said, Dave, just flipping the script. And instead of it being all about you and, hey, I closed 2 more deals or whatever it might be, if you can just turn that around a little bit and highlight your client or highlight the person you've worked with, man, there's a lot of power in that, right? If I were to turn around and say, I had the pleasure of working with, Dave and his family, and what an amazing family, and I'm so excited for their next journey. Congrats, right? That is such a different framework than closed another one. It's just a whole different framework. And then guess what? If you and I are friends on Facebook at the end of a transaction and I post something like that, you as a client, you're way more likely to share that with your 300 or 400 Facebook friends, right? So absolutely, it's a small little thing. I would just encourage agents to kind of flip the script and highlight their clients. And some clients are really private, right? You might not use them by name. That's fine. I would say for the majority of people, though, probably at least 50% of the people that agents are working with, they're on Facebook. There's nothing wrong with, taking a picture of them by the sold sign or whatever it might be. Like, just honoring that. I mean, for most people, buying and selling a home is one of the biggest moments in their life. So,
we just lost Katie. Katie, are you back?
Whoops. I think I might have lost you for a second.
Hey, you're back.
There we go.
So as we wind this up, just a couple quick things. I always try to ask people this, and I asked Chris this, I asked Jimmy this, and I've also had Chelsea Pites on, who I know you know, and Chelsea was great. And the question I have for you is, what's new? What's going to be new coming up? Is there a new disruptor? What if there's anything out there that we know of, what is it?
Well, it's not necessarily new, but I would say Instagram. I think Instagram is a huge, huge place that people need to start paying attention to, especially, I'm going to say 2 areas, Instagram stories and Instagram TV. Those are 2 areas where I think there's a huge opportunity for agents and brokers. Instagram stories is this idea where you're taking photos or videos, they get stitched together into your story that's here today and gone tomorrow. And we're seeing Facebook stories starting to get, prominence. It all started with Snapchat, a few years ago, this idea of like 24-hour content. But stories is a great way for agents and brokers to start getting on camera, to start learning how to do storytelling. It's a great way to take people behind the scenes. I think for a lot of people, they're not even going through their news feed on Instagram. They're just going through Instagram stories. So that's a big, big opportunity. And then I'd also say Instagram TV. Instagram TV rolled out about a year or so ago. It did okay. And over the last few weeks, Instagram has made some significant changes to Instagram TV, which has been huge. And I'll just give you a quick example. When you post something to Instagram TV, for those of you who don't know, Instagram TV is a separate app. It's connected to Instagram, though, so it's a separate app where you can upload video that's up to 15 minutes. When you upload a video to Instagram TV now, you can now share that video over to the Instagram news feed, which is really powerful. You can share over a 1-minute clip. We started doing this a few weeks ago, and instead of getting like a couple hundred views, I'm getting a couple thousand views on our Instagram TV videos. So it's a little bit of an advanced tip, but for anyone who's watching, and if you're already doing video on Facebook or YouTube, why not also repurpose it, put it on Instagram TV, get that extra traction? So I think those are 2 big areas. The agents and brokers are starting to really embrace that and create content and create stories, do some video. They're making some big things happen. I think that's a huge opportunity for 2019 and beyond.
That's great. That's great. I think you. Anyway, can you still hear me, Katie?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. All right, cool, because you froze there for a second. So anyway, look, I want to thank you so much. You've given so many great nuggets. And, you know, I know the reason that you came on, I say this every week to my guest, is that you just wanted to get one of these hats. You know, everybody wants them.
Yeah.
You know, so we will get this hat out to you because it seems like to be the big thing these days. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I want to.
I would love one.
Thank you. I thank you so much for coming on. It's been my honor and my pleasure. I hope you enjoyed, you know, listening to me rant a little bit and answering some of my questions, which I hope had a lot of value to any real estate agent out there. And Katie, tell people how they can get you or get your book or use your program. because you've got so much great stuff out there.
Thank you. Well, the best way is just to go to my website. If you go to katielance.com, just katielance.com, there's all kinds of fun stuff. We've got hundreds of free resources on our site. We have an online academy that agents and brokers can find out about. I do a lot of speaking, so if you're looking for a great speaker, you can check it out there. And my book is available there. You can also find the book on Amazon. So, and I'm pretty much Katie Lance on every platform. So feel free to connect with me on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. That's another conversation for another day. But
right, exactly. And there's the book. You know, I want to thank you again so much for coming on and just hang with us for a minute. Everybody, thanks for watching Real Estate Talk TGF. My name is Dave Finale, Real Estate Skill Builder. If you have any questions or want to talk about doing things differently, go to reskillbuilder.com. Thanks so much, Katie. And everybody, we'll see you next week. Next week, we have Ryan Hodge, a broker owner from London, Ontario, Canada, who has some different ways of using Facebook and has really built a business on private messaging. So Ryan's going to be on with us next week. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.